Good morning, and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners morning check-in for April the 9th, 2020. And for public attendance, if you wish, you can call in by dialing 360-252-9020, and your PIN number is 1234. That's area code 360-252-9020. Your PIN is 1234, and you can listen in on the phone. And we'll start with introductions. I'm John Hutchings, the chair of the board. Am I right?
Vice Chair Time Henser.
Gary Edwards.
Romero Chavez.
And that's it. And we have on the screen zooming in. Zooming in is go ahead, Robin Campbell. Okay, she's here. Robin Courts is on the line, and we have Jennifer. Go ahead, Jennifer.
Yes, and also Jennifer Walker, Public Works Director. And then on the call-in is Lucy Mills, Road Operations Manager, and Carrie Hibden, Parks Manager.
Great, thank you. And
Lucy, Carrie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, thank you.
are you able to hear the Jennifer, the Parks Director, or the Public Works Director speaking?
It's faint, but I can hear.
Okay. I just want to be sure everybody can hear everybody else. So with that, start with, I'd like to, go ahead, Robin, introduce yourself.
Robin Campbell, Assistant County Manager, and apparently I'm in two places at one time.
Yes, yes, that is canny. I'd like to start just by recognizing that the Tenino Police Chief, Bob Swain, suffered some type of a medical emergency and crashed the Tenino police car, his car, into Scotty B's restaurant, and he's at the hospital. So he's, I'm told that he's doing okay, and they'll tend to his issues, and we'll wait and see what happens. But that's kind of startling news to hear. We just wish him the absolute best. First thing on the agenda this morning is parks and trails closure or non-closure and the discussion surrounding that. Romero, do you want to frame this for us?
Yeah, Commissioner, this is a follow-up to the decision the board made to, quote unquote, open county trails, particularly the trailheads. Since then, I've received a couple of some feedback related to this, and I can probably walk you through some of the nuances of implementing the direction of.
Carrie Hibden?
And,
Left the conference.
okay, nice knowing you.
Thanks for your input.
So I received an email from Jay Burning. He is the interim city manager for the city of Olympia. And he raised concerns as the city council was, as his own words, very concerned. The Board of County Commissioners had decided to open all the trailheads. And he specifically, through the county council, through him, requested the board not to open the trailheads where within the city of Olympia.
I didn't get the name. Who sent that in?
Jay Burning?
Jay Burney.
He's the interim city manager.
That's fine.
So, and that's what the gist of his email, and let me frame that a little bit, and I'm sure Jennifer and Carrie, who just left the conference, maybe feeling.
I am here.
He's back.
Oh, you're there, all right.
I am here.
Hip donk.
Good.
I don't have to be.
Yeah, okay.
So, as a matter of framework, the county operates 6 trailheads along the Chehalis Western as well as the Yelm and Tenino trails. 4 trailheads on the Chehalis Western and 2 in the Yelm Tenino. So 4 trailheads on and 2. It's only one trailhead the county maintains has brick and mortar bathrooms, and that's the 14th Avenue, and also known as the Chambers Lake trailhead, and that is within the city of Olympia.
Is that the only one in the city of Olympia?
I believe so.
Right by the trestle, yeah.
And that one has obviously parking, and bathrooms. The rest of the locations, we have portable toilets, porta potties, and we replace those currently. I think they becomes a little more complicated, at least from my perspective, to implement the direction of the board. Because 2 of the trailheads, they have gates. Only 2 have actual gates that we can probably manage that. One is the 14th Avenue, the Chambers Lake, and the other one is the Water Bay Trail. If you go to the north, it's at the end of the Chehalis Western. Water Bay, that is the end of the Chehalis Western, right there. It's parking lot and is a gate. It becomes a little more cumbersome because, let me begin with the Water Bay Trailhead. That is owned by the Department of Natural Resources. Okay? And the 14th Avenue, the Chambers Lake Trailhead, is owned by the Washington State Fish and Wildlife, which also they have a boat ramp to Chambers Lake.
But that's in the city.
That's in the city. But we just operate for them, but the facility themselves, the trailhead property, and again, the Water Bay is owned by the Department of Natural Resources. And the 14th Avenue Chambers Lake is owned by the Washington State Fish and Wildlife. And that is, again, has a boat ramp. The implementation of opening those 2 trailheads may be more complicated. I'm not saying difficult, more complicated because we need to have their partners, the Department of Natural Resources, as well as the Department of Fish and Wildlife, to agree in opening the trail. Although under the state orders, all the state parks and facilities have been closed until May 4th. So I don't know if we can manage that with those 2 partners. The other locations, we don't have any gates, and we do have signs stating the trail is closed. And as far as I understand, they have not seen any backups on the trails. They have gates. As I stated on Tuesday to you, the individuals are citizens are using the trail because the trail has so many entrances and access to that. So although the trails are closed, but it will be almost difficult to implement the closure. And as I said it to you, I use the trail in my experience, and I believe staff's experience, is a little lighter than usual. But you know, when the weather changes, like today, probably we may see more usage. It allows for social distancing, as I said it to you, although there is closed, but again, it's difficult to manage that. So I'd like to bring this to your attention. One is, first of all, the email and the request from the City of Olympia. And second is the operational challenges that we may have to follow up the direction of the board to open the trailheads.
It allows for social distancing, as I said it to you, although there's closed.
Well, it seems like I have an echo.
They went to China and back.
Lucy Mills has left the conference.
Okay. Jennifer, Carrie, or Lucy, do you want to add on the framing of the issue today? Related to trails, I have other information related to the parks.
Yes, Carrie, do you want to add just a little bit more regarding the cleaning as well?
Sure. Well, as you know, can everybody hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so as we know, people are using the trails. There's no question about that. The trailhead at 14th and the restroom is locked. Staff is out patrolling daily on the trail to make sure that they pick up any obvious litter, things like that, attend any down limbs, things like that. the the trail bathrooms, which are the portable toilets, are being serviced by a private contract. And our contract allows for a weekly cleaning of those restrooms. Staff reports that they're in their standard normal condition as far as use right now. For the very short period during the sunny weather, we actually had some overuse of those, but they've stabilized and they seem to be now in standard condition.
Which ones?
The portable, because we have portable potties.
Oh, the porta potties, because the main bathroom is
The
closed.
main bathroom is closed. The only brick and mortar bathroom that we have, that we operate is on the 14th Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that one's closed.
Okay.
So if there is not additional information to this, the question that I have is to the board, whether you would like to reconsider the decision you made last Tuesday. If you'd like to continue on with the decision, then give us time to be able to implement your direction.
Nice. Okay, good, Gary.
England.
I don't know if I'm interested in reconsidering as much as I'm interested in modifying. I don't like government making laws that people just break. So as far as people using the park or using the trails as part of our park system, because that's what they're designated for, I'm all for people going out and getting their exercise and staying, their separate distance and all that. On the other hand, I don't think that we should try to tell other governmental entities how to do business. So if they have a feeling that they don't want their people out using the parks, they can go put a policeman there if they want. And I would guess we shouldn't open up if we're in their jurisdiction. But in the county jurisdiction, I see nothing wrong with opening the park trails for public use.
Trailheads.
Well, so people can access it the way they normally access it. So they don't have to circumvent the gates and act like they're some kind of Al Capone out there taking a walk with their family. I don't want people thinking that.
Go ahead, Hank.
I think that that's consistent with where I'm at. There's several nuances that you just added to this. I didn't realize that, I thought the trails were open. I didn't realize that so I didn't think my motion was to reopen anything. It was really about the parking access. So if the trail is closed, because I walk on the other county, the one that I've been accessing is the Ralph Monroe Trail by Evergreen. There's nothing indicating whatsoever that that's closed, and there's people on it. Appropriately social distancing, biking, walking, all sorts of things. So I didn't know that I wouldn't have done that had I known that we closed that trail. So I would like the governor's, I went back to the governor's declaration. It says that essential activities that are permitted, engaging in outdoor exercise activities such as walking, hiking, running, or biking, but only if appropriate social distancing practices are used. I believe that the 3 trails that we have are wide and paved and allow for appropriate social distancing. Nobody touches anything. My motion wasn't about bathrooms, frankly. That was an expansion, just to be clear. It was just about the parking access, so someone who's disabled or otherwise having trouble doesn't have to park in an inappropriate, unsafe place for a trail that I thought was open. So it was really just about appropriate, even-handed community access to something I thought was open. That was where I was coming from. So given that the trail is closed, I think that I would like to have the trail open. It sounds like there's places to access it in the county. We can respect, as Commissioner Edwards said, we can respect the state and the city of Olympia's desire to keep the status quo and all the, but there's places, but if there's a sign up saying the trail's closed, I would maybe want to remove that sign. Because I think that people need this opportunity to exercise. Not everybody has a treadmill in their garage in their large suburban home. not everybody has access to easy and places to get exercise. And I don't see any social distancing. I mean, Dr. Yu's concerns were about congregation and social distancing, which I think can absolutely, not only can they be, but they are. I mean, I've been on the Ralph Monroe Trail every single weekend since this is gone. I haven't seen anything inappropriate on those trails in terms of social distancing. So as far as that goes, I would point out Lacey. I was trying to figure out, because we didn't know in our discussion last week what the other cities were doing.
I have information related to parks that relate to, when we get to the second
Yeah.
part of this conversation.
Well, it's analogous, because I heard from Lacey that they're basically open, but they've closed off the playgrounds, the parking, and the bathrooms. They're working on signage that says, yes, we're open, but, follow social distancing, can't use the playground equipment stuff. That's kind of an analogous approach to what I'm talking about with the trails, where maybe the message is, we're open, but you're not gonna be able to access all the trail heads. You're not gonna be able to use the bathrooms. You are not gonna be able to congregate on this trail. It's for simply, so maybe that's an approach that we could take.
I have some feedback after you.
All right.
As to trails, and then, parks different.
I'll save most of this for the parks discussion. But I agree with Commissioner Edwards. Having some type of a rule or law or whatever it is that's not enforceable and turns innocent people into criminals, or it's confusing, that's not good policy. In the old days, and I don't know what it is, I think it's changed now since the 90s or early 2000s. Anybody living within the city of Olympia, if you were a minor, you could not possess tobacco. You couldn't buy, sell, or possess it. But you could possess it in Lacey, but you couldn't buy it. And it was different in Tumwater. And so the kids were not knowing, well, no, it's legal, but no, it's not legal. But yeah, it is here, but not here. And it confuses people. To simplify it, in my mind, rather than, we're gonna open up the county trails, only these trailheads, but Lacey, Olympia, where your trails are going through, it's up to you to manage that. It's gonna confuse people. They're gonna take the trail from South County to North County, wherever, and around, and they may be violating something, of the spirit at least of the ordinance, or the statewide shutdown, and cities shut down and county shut down. So I am, after giving this some good thought and doing some research and talking with professionals in the field and others, I'm not in favor of opening the trailheads just yet, because I'm afraid of giving the wrong message to the community. Even though I'm focused on mental health and the pent-up stress that the kids and parents are after, and with the sun coming out, oh yeah, we're raising the white flag, the smoke's coming out, the white smoke out of the chimney, coast is clear, we're fine, come on in. I don't want to be complacent or be a rogue county, and if it's closed, it's closed until this dadgum thing is over and we can say it's safe to come out. Yes, sir.
I have a question for you, sir. You said open the trailheads, so I'm confused now. Are you saying we should go back to the way it was, all trails are closed?
Yes.
Okay, so that's different
that's
than
where I
open
am.
the trailheads.
Right.
I believe I'm closer, I'm with Commissioner Menzer on
Yeah.
this particular issue.
Yeah.
That I do think that the governor's direction, we are still following the governor's direction by allowing people to walk, exercise, however you want to put it, on our trails. Because again, I do not want to create lawbreakers over some misinterpretation of, and I'll defer it to the governor. If the governor comes out and wants to say, well, I'm sorry, I didn't make this clear. I meant you can't walk on any of the shoulders of the roads. You can't walk on anywhere, including designated trails. Okay, that's clear. But in my interpretation, and as Commissioner Menzer so eloquently put it, I believe that we're still meeting the spirit of the governor's edict.
Romero?
That's where I'm at.
It's just a perspective. The trails are closed, but it is difficult to control that. So by de facto, is all the activities that you listed are occurring.
They are.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not enforceable.
I'm a person that if I go to a trailhead and it says this trail's closed, I'm going home.
So,
I'm not gonna break the rules.
no, allow me to provide a perspective. So the fact of the matter is exactly the activities that you listed or occurring on the trail. So my humble opinion is begs the question, an affirmative action by the board is gonna change that. So, and I'll stop there.
So I guess we're down to the point of thumbs up or down on trails.
Well, except open, I think we all agree that we don't wanna force.
Modify because the direction that you had, it was on Tuesday, you provided direction to open the trailheads.
Right.
So I will, if that direction stands, please give us the direction that it stands. If that direction changes, please give us what the new direction is.
Okay, so let's give a thumbs up on opening the trailheads. Yes or no? That's the issue, correct?
Because that's the direction that you give us
Right,
on
that's the direction
Tuesday.
change Tuesday.
When I say trailheads, I mean trailheads that are located in other jurisdictions. Now, that could be a state trailhead in the county, I suppose, as you articulated. Well, so I don't think we ought to try to open something like that that's a partnership with the state. If the state feels the parks should be closed, I disagree with that, but that's beside the point. So if we've got trailheads in the county that are administered under the authority of some other entity, then I don't think we ought to change whatever that entity is proposing.
And and I agree with you, and from what I heard Ramiro saying, the only trailheads that have gates and or brick and mortar bathrooms are within the jurisdiction of other entities. So they're really, doesn't matter whether they're open or closed from the county, that doesn't mean that we do anything. They're just there.
But our direction on Tuesday was to open the gates.
Yeah, and
Up in all trails, all trailheads. That's the direction you give us.
we're reversing that.
That's what I like to hear.
That's what I'm giving you a
Yeah.
thumbs up or down to.
Yeah,
Reverse it?
I'm all for reversing that portion.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So.
Come down, meaning open the
Open,
trailheads.
yeah, don't open. You say, yeah, reverse it, thumbs up,
No,
reverse it.
That respects City of Olympia, that
Let me-
respects
let me
state.
see let me see if I can verbalize that for you to concur.
Yeah,
on
good
this.
luck.
So what you're saying is you're reversing the decision that you made last Tuesday, April 7, 2020, on opening the trailheads. Now I said, the new direction is do not open the trailheads along the Chehalis Western and the Tenino and Yelm Trail.
Yes, and it's anonymous.
In
It's
other,
unanimous.
and I think you have to say in there, in other jurisdictions. That's the key to me. If we've got something over on, I don't know, Rich Road or somewhere like that, and it's an access to the trail and there's a parking area there, I don't wanna put a barrier up there.
We don't have a barrier.
No, we
Right,
don't-
I
we
mean,
don't.
that's the question about open, I mean, I think maybe the way to state it is,
So
we do not wanna take, we reverse any direction to take affirmative steps to open trailheads. Because those are the two that would require
Secure,
affirmative steps.
secure, yeah.
We're passively saying that the other ones are open.
If you wanna walk on the trails, it's okay, and it is my thing. In Thurston County.
We're unlocking the gate, we're leaving them shut down.
Yeah.
We're not opening the trailheads.
But there are many
Okay.
other accesses.
So let me see, so I'll get more specific. So you you reversed your decision on last Tuesday, that's clear. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
thank you.
But what I didn't know last Tuesday was that the trails were closed. That people are being told that the trails are closed.
so that was, when the board took an action to close all county facilities, that was inclusive of that.
Trails.
Yeah, parks and trails. So you rescinded your decision last Tuesday.
Good discussion.
Well, yeah. And now, let me see if, what you stating is, the Water Bay Trailhead in the 14th Avenue, Chambers Lake Trailhead, you do not want to open it.
I do not want
That
to open
sounds
it.
like, I think we're
The state,
We're in
city,
agreement on that, it sounds like.
unanimous.
So the 2 gated trails
It doesn't
remain.
matter what I want, I'm deferring to the entities that control those and the
That's
jurisdictions that are.
right, as am I. I don't wanna tell them what to do.
Well, that changed direction, because if you want us to open to pursue conversations with them.
No, they've made their position clear.
Yeah, if they wanna close them, that's up to I think those people work for the governor.
So maybe the 2 gated trailheads, no action.
Correct. For those
I'm
on the
just
phone.
I'm-
For those on the phone, yes, correct.
I want to
Yeah.
clarify that, no action. Okay.
No action.
Because you rescinded that previous decision and 2 gated trails, no action. Now, on the rest of the trails, including, the free access to parking lots. Because we do have a couple locations, they provide parking, which we call trailheads, which are not gated.
Do we have signs up at those places right now?
This
They tell
is
people
closed.
not to park here?
It's closed, but it's a sign, and not necessarily everybody obeys that. But you can probably provide a perspective on that,
Well,
Carrie?
Even on, hang on, Carrie, even on, for example, the one I'm familiar with is Herman Road or 37th. People park along the road and then they go off the trails because there's no gate down, there's no signs that I've seen. And they're parking, and it's legal parking, then they go and use the trails. But if we have a parking lot, that's gonna be one of those, I would think, unenforceable type things, and we've got signs up, you say, I haven't seen signs at these parking
Well,
lots.
because we only put on the trailheads, because putting signs that the trail is closed along every single intersection that we have.
Oh, yeah.
We don't have the means, because along the trail, we have neighborhoods, they have built,
Access points, yeah.
access points. There are so many access points, they will be almost impossible. It will be extremely cost prohibitive to put closed trail signs along every single access point.
And it's unreasonable, because unreasonable expense, they're gonna get ripped off or vandalized anyway, or people just walk right past it
And that is the
regardless.
reason why
That's the reality.
some decisions uses that, because we are not able to have those means to put, closed signs in
Yeah.
every single access point.
Yeah, go ahead, Carrie.
He went home.
Well, you're accurate in that we do have signs up on the trail. They're posted at intervals down the trail. Ramiro's accurate that there are so many entrance points. Some of them are people's backyards, frankly, that they line the trail if they own property along the trail. And we don't have signs at every single spot. We do have them at intervals along the trail. And then we have them posted at our trailheads. Only 2 of those trailheads are lockable. That decision's already been made, it sounds like. But the other trailheads, say 67th Avenue, which is near Horizons Elementary School and near the Indian Summer Development, Fir Tree Road, we have a parking lot and signage and so forth. That is a trailhead. There are signs posted there currently saying the trail is currently closed. If we're going to open the trail itself, then we would clearly have to remove the signs at those trailheads and then along the trail corridor itself.
Carrie, what kind of signs are they? Are they paper, metal, what are they?
No, they're only 8.5 by 11 signs. They're fluorescent green, and we laminate them and then put them at intervals along the trail.
Yeah, so they were cumulatively expensive to make and put up.
Well, these are ones we make in-house, Commissioner, and so they're not a permanent sign. They're considered temporary. We laminate them in-house just so they can sustain during some of the weather we have.
Okay, all right.
So, and practicality is if you walk fast, you'll miss that. And that is just the nature of designing.
At this point, we're talking about just a few weeks, like 3 weeks.
So,
At this point in time, 4 weeks.
So the next question is, would you like to open the trails?
Yes,
No.
I want to say yes.
I have a 12-year-old that biking is specifically mentioned. I don't let my kids bike on city streets.
Good for you.
So if there's,
Safety.
if the governor says we're allowed to bike, then, and we don't have any, and all the trails are closed, I don't understand how, Robin?
But the governor also says avoid travel. So
Which
looking
is-
at his website, it says, can I go outside? And he said, yes. In fact, it's good for you to go for walks, check your mailbox, sit in the sunshine. Remember to stay 6 feet away from others, avoid travel, and avoid crowds. He's saying, stay at home.
That was because people were going out to Grace Harbor County to the beach, and it was putting a disproportionate impact on those communities. And what I heard them say is find recreation activities closer to home, which I consider to be stay in your county, stay in Thurston County. Some people live at Horizons Point right next to the trail, some people don't. Everybody needs to have access to exercise in this county.
I do not disagree with that at all. I'm looking at the direction that we've been given from the governor, that other jurisdictions are following, that we've been asked to stay at home.
So Commissioner, does it say, the governor says it's okay to bike on the trails or just bike?
It just says, essential activities permitted under this proclamation are limited to the following, and it has 4 categories. The 4th is engaging in outdoor exercise activities such as walking, hiking, running, or biking. Hiking, hiking is not walking around your neighborhood. Hiking has a specific meaning. If you can't go to the very nearest hiking trail near your house, then that verbiage has no meaning in this proclamation. It says walking, hiking, running, or biking, but only if appropriate social distancing practices are used. So for that language to have any meaning, the closest trail to my house is the Ralph Monroe Trail. It's just south of Evergreen, which is a county trail. I guess I've been violating our county policy every weekend because I had been going there with my kids to bike, and I'm not supposed to.
Guilty as charged as well, just for the record.
I didn't see any congregating. I didn't see any inappropriate non-social distancing. The community's taking this very seriously. I think that the trail, the parks is going to be a different discussion, and you'll hear a different tune out of me on that. But I think that the trails ought to be open, consistent with the governor's order.
Since we're doing confessions, I have not violated that. But I will be biking this afternoon on the city streets. But it's a motorcycle. It's gonna be sunny and warm.
So what I'm hearing is the majority of the board would like to open the trails. And that is inclusive of the parking.
Yeah.
That even includes the trails that are 6 feet in width or 4.5 or 5 feet in width and not.
I don't know that we have any like
We
that.
only have the Chicago's Western Trail and
Right.
the Yelm
And they're all 12 foot.
Are they all 12s?
In Ralph Monroe,
The proper, yeah.
which is also.
They're all 10 feet wide.
What's that, Carrie?
10 feet wide, Commissioner.
10 feet, 10 feet. Ooh.
So you can still say, you can stay 9 feet away from somebody.
You carry a measure.
Maintain
Yeah,
your
take
social distancing.
Okay, so you have the 2 yeses and 1 no.
That's right.
And I'm erring on the side of our health professionals as well.
Well, I think I'm erring on the side of our health professionals as well also, because Dr. Yu said exercising was very beneficial. Mental health issues are very beneficial.
Yep.
So she said exercising and walking on the trails, she didn't have any problem.
That was, however, she said yes to all those health things and mental health things, but she was not, when I talked to her last night for about 40 minutes, she was not open to opening the trails.
Oh, well.
So I'm erring on
Okay.
the side of caution with our
Yeah.
public health professional folks.
Oftentimes,
That's right.
oftentimes I feel that government creates regulatory issues for the lowest common denominator in our society. And those people are gonna break the rules no matter what. And I do not wanna penalize 95% of the people for what 5% of the people are gonna do anyway, regardless of what we say or do. So I want them to be comfortable to go out for a walk.
Yes, Mary, you have what you need?
So considering there has been a very robust discussion, if you allow me just to summarize what the decision of the board. You rescinded your decision that it was taken on April 7, 2020 related to the trailheads. Today, you decided to take no action on the 2 gated trails that will be the Water Bay Trailhead and the 14th Avenue Chambers Lake. And the no action means that those trailheads will remain closed. And also, the majority of the board, Commissioner Hutchins voted against it. You voted to open the trails.
Okay,
I want to open, but I'm not for opening them yet.
okay, I take exception to your terminology. I feel that we modified a prior decision.
That's what I
No, you didn't say modified, you said
rescinded.
rescinded.
But it is recent.
No, it's modified, because we're gonna keep the trails open, so we're not changing that part of it.
That's what I outlined well,
Okay, so it's modified rather than rescinded, right?
Well, we rescinded the first part, the gate part.
Well, we modified what we said several days ago.
Well, my motion was only about, when I made my motion, I didn't realize the trails were closed. I thought all my motion was about was the access at those two gated points for a trail that was open. This is an entirely different discussion because I learned 3 or 4 new things since Tuesday.
yeah, I think.
Absolutely.
I think all of us did, to be honest with you.
And that was just a trail one, that took 36 minutes. Wait till we get to the other stuff. Okay, ready to move on?
Yeah.
You have what you need, okay.
And the next is also you wanted to bring this conversation related to parks and county parks. And you had a conversation last Tuesday from opening all the county parks, perhaps to opening 2 locations, maybe another 3rd location. And you also requested as to what other jurisdictions are doing. Let me start with that. The Olympia parks, trails, and building closed until further notice. There's a couple bathroom facilities on those parks. They're open just because of the daily use. Tumwater parks and building closed until further notice. Lacey parking lots are locked to avoid gatherings. How people can take walks in the neighborhood parks because those they're not fenced
The
in.
little pocket park, yeah.
And the state parks are closed, all facilities until May 4th. The current conditions, park staff, county park staff are in daily contact with the caretakers and gatekeepers of the Burfoot, Kennydale, Prairie Cove, and the Shoots Falls Park. Park use, obviously, although there's closed, they can go around the gate. Is low to moderate, depending on the weather. In parking issues, because we do have gates and there have not been an issue if people parks right outside of the gate, so that has not been an issue. Anyways, I believe that's the part of the report you wanted to hear. And I'm bringing this issue, again, as requested by the board, as to what is it that you'd like to do with parks, county parks.
So the issue at hand for the board now is, do we open up all parks, or some parks, or none of them? Who wants to start? Please, go ahead.
I'll start on this. So I'm backtracking on this one. I've got a lot of community input. I had a long discussion with Director of Public Health. I can see sides back and forth on this, but from my perspective, Public Health and our governor are directing our response. They're doing a good job of doing that. If they're not comfortable with this, then I'm gonna defer to that expertise and recommend that we keep our parks closed.
Sir?
Boy, this is really bugging me. I'm agreeing with Ty so much on some of these.
Change comes from within, and it's refreshing.
I'm with the commissioner.
All right, and I would also add to that, I've changed my phraseology or my thinking as well, ideology on this issue. I had extensive conversation with our Public Health and Social Services Director, Shelley Slaughter, and our Health Officer, Dr. Diana Yu, and tremendous input from constituents, long conversations. And like I said before, with all the pent-up stress and feelings with the parents and kids, and the fear of the unknown, and with a keen focus on everybody, young, middle, and old, their mental health, and needing to get out, and the sun was coming out again, I thought, wow, let's give a breath of fresh air to the community and say, please get out and enjoy some sun. But then I started really realizing that what we're doing is sending the wrong message that, hey, the coast is clear, everything's safe, come on in. And especially with all of our surrounding counties, their parks are closed, And if we become a rogue county and say, hey, our folks, our parks are open, come on in, that's really, I think, in my opinion, very irresponsible. So I'm along with my seatmates. I don't want to open up any of our parks just yet until it's absolutely safe to do so. We should be following the national, state, and local rules of engagement during this doggone thing. And so I'm not in favor of opening any of our parks at this point in time either. It's frustrating, but dadgummit, gotta do what you gotta do.
So what I'm hearing, the board is unanimously decided not to open county parks.
Modifying our original
Yeah.
decision.
We didn't make a decision on
We didn't make a
that, we
decision.
deferred
Well,
that.
but I'm saying because.
Oh, yeah, we never, yeah.
We wanted to get more information and I got permission.
So,
Which is exactly why we don't make decisions the same
related
day
to-
we hear something,
related-
right?
Related to county
Right?
parks, no action.
there you go.
I'm saying, that's your phrase, your ideology. We don't make decisions the same day we hear an issue. And this is exactly why. We were all up about it on Tuesday, 1, 2, or 3, or whatever, and now we've had some time to chew on it, think about it, get feedback, and we decided, I think, a responsible decision.
And this is a more restrictive policy than, for example, the city of Lacey has in place, where they are permitting walking through their parks.
Thank you for reiterating it for the public. Lacey Parks are open.
Well, no, I mean, I was told by a council member, they're working on some specific signage about it, which is kind of like, we're open, but there are very strict rules. And I don't find that to be inappropriate, but I'm not commenting on Lacey's approach. I think there's a way to do that correctly, but I'm just comfortable with where we're at based on what I heard from community and public health.
And last Sunday, my wife and I and our grandkids and our 2 dogs walked to Lacey Park. Rainier Vista, we walked the entire perimeter, and there were a lot of people inside, not crowds, but they were keeping very appropriately spaced, but there were people inside, not on the playground. But even they had like 4 kids in their skate park. And they were, surprisingly enough, staying away from each other. They're all doing their own stuff, not coming into contact with each other. So that's that. You have what you need?
Yes, I'd just like to ask Jennifer and Carrie if that direction is clear. Jennifer, Carrie? Is the direction that you've heard is clear?
Yes.
It's very clear to me, commissioners, and I'd like to say also, I appreciate that these are difficult decisions, and I appreciate the considered thought that's gone into this.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Gary. Jennifer, anything?
No, I think it's clear, the position that the board is requesting that we go.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Now, we're doing the commissioner items, is it? What is next? Your assignments to our board.
Yeah, and normal report on your assignments. I don't think you've been able to meet some of the boards, but I think some of you have practiced Zoom meetings, so.
Do you want to start, Gary, and then we'll go to you. Have anything?
I can say the lot met last night and approved the hygiene trailer that was requested, actually 2 hygiene trailers, one for Thurston County, one for the city of Olympia, $75,000 grant. They created a public health assistance program a couple of years ago. And there's already been 2 hygiene trailers that have come from that program, but there was more money. It was $250,000 remaining. So we spent $150,000 of that through 2 trailers. One will be in the control of Thurston County. I understand from Tom, it's slated to be placed at the First Christian Church, where there's expanded shelter capacity and not a lot of hygiene capacity. But it will, like the city of Lacey kind of piped up and said, these resources are supposed to be, allocated, across different parts of the county. Of course, our homeless population is concentrated in Olympia now. But the value of having it within one of the trailers within our control is that we can look at our regional needs and in the future, move the trailer to where it can best serve the community. And that might be Lacey at some point in the future, or it might be Tumwater. But I think everybody was comfortable with that, and we created a legal structure where that can basically happen quickly, because we know that the trailer's being constructed, they're all ready to go, but we want to get that on the street as soon as possible. So that was good news from lot. The other lot, since I'm on lot, there was another question. It's an interesting one. It's not so much dependent on Thurston County because we don't have ratepayers to lot. directly, but it's something that may come down the pike, is we had a long discussion about cities are deferring, basically saying, we're not gonna shut people's utilities off if they don't pay their bill. But a big chunk of that bill is payment, it goes to law. So the cities would, if they're not getting that money from citizens, would they then have to turn around though and pay law? So we created a structure whereby if the cities create programs for some type of loan payment, or not loan, but fee deferral, could then law sort of correspondingly defer collection. And we didn't decide on any specifics, we simply decided on a structure that as long as the programs were sort of equitable, I mean, somewhat even in the way they operate, so that jurisdictions are being treated equitably, the board would then have the power to authorize that. The lot board would have the power to basically defer receipt. So if the cities are deferring or giving people a payment plan, the corresponding transfer of the lot's portion of that money could be similarly deferred. We won't look at the specifics of that until the jurisdictions come to us with their proposals, which will probably happen next month. But we agreed to create the legal structure that would allow us to do that. So that's an FYI. Kind of a really tricky issue, because
It really is, yeah.
That's an interesting issue, yeah.
yeah, because otherwise the jurisdictions would be bearing a particular jurisdiction might be bearing kind of over, by making lot whole, putting an
The
additional
obligation to law.
burden on their own shoulders, and we share that. And anyway, it was an interesting discussion, which I could listen to, because it really didn't affect county residents like it does the cities, but I wanted to make sure that it made sense, and I think it did.
Every little system bumps into another system.
Yeah.
There's no escaping it.
Yeah.
It's all tied intricately in one way or another, some fashion. Commissioner, anything, boards or commissions?
No.
Okay, I didn't have a chance to do this last Tuesday, but it'll be kind of a thumbnail sketch of what we discussed at the mayor's forum on Friday last. Many of the things you already know, so I'll skip those. Olympia, the mayor gave huge compliments to Shelley Slaughter, our director, and Keita Marino for all the work they're doing, keeping everybody informed and continuing with their efforts, especially with that DOC, almost $1 million grant. They were very happy. They're very happy with what the county's doing right then and there. Yelm, the mayor of Yelm, said they have still not done an emergency declaration, and JW says they don't need one because the governor's done it for him, and the county and the health department has done it for him, and he just kind of, as he said, a sedated approach. If there's money to be had or to be gained, that will help them out, and in order to obtain that money or qualify for it, he has to do one, they'll do it then. But they haven't done an emergency declaration at this point in time. They're still looking to see what they're gonna do regarding some of their utility payers. A couple council members want to reduce the rates, the water rates by about 90% during this, raised eyebrows, during this difficult time, which would equate to about $450,000 loss income right now to the city. But the thing is, they're engaging, they're talking about it, coming up with things with the people in mind, the businesses in mind, but also maintaining government services.
This is Yelm you're talking about?
Yeah, this is all Yelm. Bucota is still they're not open to the public, but they are delivering food through the Tenino Food Bank to kids, to the Tenino school kids in Bucota. They're still getting food and such. Tumwater Mayor said they're looking at all kinds of options. Now you brought, Robin, to us a sheet of gloom and doom, a whole ratchet of things, and that's what Tumwater is looking at too. They're looking at what possible things can they do to keep services going to the community, but also kind of ratchet back to help citizens get through this, especially in the light of job losses and daycare issues and such, and rent and mortgages. and it's not looking good for Tumwater. He said it's just a very, very dour type time for Tumwater. But he said based on the crime rate and the population, I don't know what that means. Okay, never mind. Tenino said that they've done an emergency declaration and they put into place a wage freeze, no hiring, zero spending, and the food bank, Mayor Fournier said the food bank has tripled its output to the community and to kids, tripled it, which is very, very impressive for Tenino.
Could I ask you what zero spending
Yeah, I was gonna
means?
ask, what is zero spending mean?
I think that was discretionary spending, no training, no new spending. No new
Training,
spending.
travel, equipment, I
Okay.
would bet, those
That's
are
all.
the
Thank
standard
you.
things.
Yeah,
that
thank
one
you.
would freeze.
And then he was concerned about prisoners being arrested, all having to go to St. Peter's Hospital to be medically cleared before they're transported to jail. And so we got that cleared up with the sheriff this last week, that all prisoners that are brought to Thurston County Jail, which has diminished, because they're only doing the mandatory arrests at this point in time. Everybody is screened when they come in medically at the jail, and then any new prisoner is put on 72-hour containment to make sure there's nothing going on before they're released into the general population. So the mayor's been given the proper information now. And that was about it. Okay, that's all I had to report on that issue.
On IT, we haven't had any meetings, but we're getting updates, and you've probably seen that there's been service changes. They're just struggling to figure out how to address the situation, and the most recent change, which is a pretty drastic one, is they're going to appointment only.
Yeah, reservation.
And they've got, reservation, and it has to be a day in advance, and they'll come and meet, they're gonna meet the needs of people that have essential trips, but they're gonna do it in this other format, at least for the time being, and
Do you know if they were looking to relocate the downtown transfer station to, the Capitol campus, did that materialize?
No, it didn't materialize. The state, my understanding was that the state resisted that because the problems they were having were not, they were COVID related, but not directly COVID related. It was an indirect result of the COVID-19 crisis. And so the ability for them to flip from downtown to the Capitol campus was in a disaster, it was emergency, an earthquake or something. And, it wasn't, this was about people's behavior as kind of an indirect result of shutdowns of community care center. I think there was a connection, but it wasn't a connection that the state felt they needed to facilitate it or whatever was required of the state, approve it. I don't know exactly what was involved, but they were having trouble getting that. So I think that played into the ultimate decision.
Are there other transits around the state that are doing reservation only, or?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard about
I
that.
heard that was so unique to hear that transit, you'd have to have a reservation to get somewhere. And I thought, what's driving that? What negativity was driving that?
Well, I think it was a combination of, I reported last week, I think, on the problems at the transit center.
Yeah.
But also just, public transit is a place where,
Just where you hang out.
compared to a trail, for example, from our
Yeah.
earlier discussion, here's a place where hard surfaces, lots of people can be crowded. Of course, they weren't crowded. There were fewer people taking the bus, but still, the drivers were concerned. There was just, they think this will be safer, I think, and demand was falling, and they've got between their van fleet and their dial-a-lift vehicles, and they think they can be creative with their fleet of vehicles to meet the needs and be more efficient and safe, balancing all those concerns. We'll see. I think we're planning to have a virtual meeting with the authority next week, so hopefully I'll learn more.
Anything? I'd like to revisit and go back to Tuesday with the discussion we had with public health over the information that we're getting from
Okay, we're moving on from,
commissioner items.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody else had
Boards and
anybody else.
commissions.
from boards and commissions,
Yeah.
now we're on to commissioner items, right?
Yeah,
Oh, okay, well then go ahead, because I think I had a similar question.
Oh, good, okay.
Go ahead.
We had a robust, and I see Elizabeth is on the phone as well, or on Zoom, regarding information that we get from, get or not get from public health regarding COVID patients and the tracking, the trending. And so after two good, very robust conversations, as I said, with Shelley Slaughter and Dr. Diana Yu, and then doing a lot of reading of research papers online over the last few days, I've learned a lot in just a couple days. And HIPAA, of course, is the, for people that don't know, they hear HIPAA all the time, it's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. That was federal legislation signed in 1996 during the Clinton administration. And the bottom line is do no harm to patients' data. And there's three components to protect the patient's information. It's administrative security, physical security, and technical security. And 2 of 10 of the most common violations of HIPAA are insider snooping and release of information that could compromise the patient's identity to an undesignated person or bureaucrat. And so the violations, how that's enforced is the state attorney general can impose a fine of up to $25,000 per violation, and the Department of Health and Social Services can fine up to $1.5 million per violation. And our PHSS team of investigators, they go out and they get information from the, it could be any number of health issues. It could be a restaurant, somebody gets foodborne illness, or it could be this COVID-19. But they get and glean information from the patient to find out where were you, where'd you shop, where'd you pump your gas, where'd you do this, who'd you come into contact with, to gather all this data. And then not all of that data is given to the director, but she has people that do this stuff to collect it and find these trends and such. And it's important for them to get compliance, voluntary compliance from these, that the folks they're questioning, so they can get a handle on whatever the issue is at hand. And so for me, it's like a nice to know and need to know basis. And we as Board of County Commissioners have sworn oaths. We've done it in our lives as professional life. You sworn an oath when you passed the bar. I would imagine you did one for a commissioner as well.
Yep.
I didn't realize this, but our director, Shelley Slaughter, swore an oath as well. I didn't know this, but she is actually certified HIPAA compliant, that she is certified to administer and protect patients' data and do no harm to the patient's data that's being collected. And so in my head, they don't need people hampering them, commissioners, bureaucrats, whatever, I'll consider myself that, hampering them, distracting them, compromising their work, and protecting their job is to protect the patient and protect the public. So if our staff, and I've said this regarding CPED and other departments, if our staff is doing what we've hired them to do, then get out of their way. Let them do their jobs. We still have oversight. We still maintain information flow. We know what's going on because we are policy setters, but they're actually doing some of the hard work in ensuring public safety. So I don't need to know all that type of stuff that comes out. If John Hutchings was, if I contracted COVID-19, I would give every bit of information the investigators would want, I would give it to them. But I wouldn't want them putting that out in public. Of course, being a public figure, it would be, and it would happen. But those laws are guaranteed, or they protect the patient from harassment because people like either other people in the neighborhood, people in the community, media, they're gonna try to find out who is this person, where do they live. And it doesn't matter where I live. I could have gone to Portland to avoid sales tax and bought stuff at Costco and come back here and now I'm sick. And oh, it shows Southeast Olympia. There's a guy that's sick. That didn't mean anything to the neighborhood because I'm not gonna go outside, quarantine. So there's reasons why we don't get some of the information. We don't want to pinpoint and say, oh, this guy at this house has it. So they collect the data, they have it. They don't always give it to Shelley because she doesn't need to know that stuff, but she needs to know pertinent information regarding the issue in its entirety. So with that, I've changed my tune regarding demanding certain information from the director and or from Dr. Diana Yu. They know what they're doing. Did you have something right away? Your hand went up.
No, I didn't realize you're gonna bring this item again, but you asked me, board, as a Board of Health, what legal latitude you may have to have additional information related to this matter. I have engaged their attorney, and I think the question is whether that information make it public or not. And I have received some information from Elizabeth, and she's ready to provide her perspective in an executive session, which I will be scheduling next Tuesday morning at 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Shelley, Kurt, Dr. Yu, and Elizabeth will be present in that executive session, in which we will be able to answer the board ask related to the legal parameters of information. And also at that point, you will engage in an executive session to talk with your staff, Shelley, Kurt, and as well as Dr. Yu as the interim health officer.
Following up on that, I was told also that that PHSS has an attorney on staff that is, not on staff, maybe on call, that is, and that's the specialty is HIPAA. Do you know about that?
I'm not
So-
sure.
Okay, so when I hear that Elizabeth might weigh in, and I give you credibility, Elizabeth, but I'm not sure how much the deputy prosecuting attorneys are up on HIPAA versus someone that's their profession.
Elizabeth is aware of that attorney as well. Our prosecutor had to give them a special deputy assignment, but it's part of the HIPAA group. We're working toward better implementation of HIPAA in the county. There's a work group on it. And we had recently hired this attorney for training and helping us write the policies, better policies around.
I'm glad Kurt will be a part of that as well because, running this COVID thing, this COVID-19, the State Department of Health is the overseer of all of this. And then the county public health departments are in the second tier. And then EMS and everybody else, they work to support public health.
So I will this is my perspective, you have your prosecuting attorney, you have to provide legal perspective, and I'm certain that Elizabeth has checked all the boxes in order to provide you with the information that you need.
Well, I've learned a lot in a couple of days. Commissioner, go ahead. Yes, I'm adding something.
My initial concern, and still is, that we were told we were not getting this certain information because of HIPAA, the potential HIPAA violations. I think that was erroneous information. I think anytime you're dealing in demographics and larger numbers, and I would just ask the county manager, how many people so far, now what's the new report?
It's 74.
So we're at 74 people.
And one death.
I don't think reporting that 52 of those people were obese, or 62 of them were diabetic or pre-diabetic, I don't think that's a HIPAA violation. I don't think keeping track for the future, because we don't know what's coming down the pike yet. So when I refer to a hot map, yes, I'm referring back to the old days of crime stats, if you will. But I don't believe those are HIPAA violations. I think those are bureaucratic withholding of information. And the reason I say that, I think that oftentimes it's government's role to continue the fear-mongering, if you will, which I think is what's going on today. I think we're continuing to try to keep the public as nervous as we possibly can about this. Don't know what the reason is, other than maybe compliance, to try and force compliance with certain regulatory things that we're putting out. But I don't believe that public policy makers, such as the Board of Health, should be denied any information. Now, whether or not that could be public or not, I disagree that we can't know if 50 of these people are obese, or 90% of them have high blood pressure. Underlying issues is what I'm referring to. Because I think underlying issues are a big piece of the information that we need to know. I'm interested that somebody's 20 years old or 40 years old, but I'm more interested in their underlying conditions and how that's spreading through the community. And I believe we need that information for what we don't know, which is we don't know what's coming. This is all a new reality. It's just like you've heard me say many times that the old reality was what it used to be. Today's reality is new, and I think society is forever going to be changed to a degree. I don't think we're ever going to go back to where we were. So gathering all the information that we can gather, I believe, is beneficial. Underlying conditions will alleviate some of the community fear out there. And those underlying conditions can be age, medical, other medical issues, that type of thing. So I disagree that it's a HIPAA violation. I guess I'm yet to be informed, but I'll be surprised if divulging demographic information is a HIPAA violation. I think that as a Board of Health, we need certain information. Maybe some of it we don't need. But I believe we need as much information as we can possibly get to make proper public policy decisions for the public out there that we're representing. All three of us are representing the public. I want to be able to make the best decisions I can. I can give other examples, but we could go on and on and on in other areas of whether it's government or environment, different things that oftentimes everybody, we just won't talk about that. That's not convenient to talk about. So this isn't convenient to talk about, but I do feel that it's information that we need. I do not feel that it's a HIPAA violation. So if it was up to me, I would direct staff to give us that information. But I realize I work in a democratic system, and if the majority feels that information is not important, I guess it's not important, but that's not where I'm at, so.
Well, I'll get you. I agree with, we don't know what's coming, we don't know when the worst is, we don't know if we're flattening, we don't know. But where I disagree is, now number one, we made that final statement, the blanket, with I don't think that more information is good or valuable. Of course, everybody wants information, we're all hungry for information. But where I break with you is when I hear the comment of bureaucrats not giving another bureaucrat information that he wants, we're calling the kettle black, but also painting them with a false motive that they are doing this intentionally to create fear mongering. I flatly really disagree with that. I don't think they're doing this intentionally, and painting with a false motive that they're doing it for fear mongering. But I think it's protection. If you can do it real quick, I'm gonna get to Ty, he hasn't had a chance to weigh in yet.
Well, I just want to comment on one thing you said.
Yeah.
And that is that you said we all want the information. Well, I take exception with how you can want information and then say, but I don't want this information because some bureaucrat wants to withhold this information. I disagree with that.
Well, I may want the information, but if it's not legal for them to give it to me, I'm not gonna have them violate their oath or violate the law and open the county to liability.
I am not asking that they violate the law. I am asking they give us what information is eligible to be given to a Board of Health. And when you say it's not that we don't want the information, I think it is that we don't want the information. I want it, but I hear you don't want it. So I'm just gonna make that perfectly clear, because if you wanted it.
Only what they want to give, what they can give us.
Okay.
Now I'm going to Ty.
Okay,
Let's hear what Ty has to say.
first thing is, I don't feel like I've had to make any policy decisions without the appropriate information I needed to make it, to date. That could change, but I just want to say that up front. there's just a major tension in the, we have a world of of people's health information, and we have laws that are very protective of the privacy of that. Then we have the Open Public Meetings Act, where the public gets to know every single piece of information that we base our decisions on as public elected officials. And those two worlds collide here. When policymakers have to weigh in on a public health issue, we need some public health information to base that, and then the public gets to know what that information is, but we've got privacy of the people involved. So how do we reconcile those two worlds that have different policies underlying them? I don't know the answer to that, and I'm waiting for legal advice that we're gonna get on Tuesday before I form an opinion. So I don't have much to add to this. I understand what both of you are saying, and I told Shelley in a phone call what I had with her that I haven't weighed in because I want to hear the legal context. I know just enough about HIPAA from my former legal career to know how complex it is, and it doesn't surprise me at all that that we've that in the context of our own HIPAA policies, we contracted out with a specialist. This is not easy stuff, even for attorneys. So I want to hear some expert advice about how to reconcile that tension between the two conflicting policies of transparency to the public, information that we need to make policy decisions, combined with people's privacy and all of that. So I'm not weighing in on this yet. I want to hear what we have to hear from our lawyers Tuesday.
It's gonna be a long couple of days. Go ahead, Commissioner.
Well, go ahead if the county manager's got something to add. I don't want to close this out just yet, but.
No, I think this is great conversation for you to have in an executive session. And an executive session, I think, is going to give you a little more clarity. And it really is the executive session, and perhaps the legal perspective is going to be what is the role of the Board of Health. And the three of you is the role of Board of Health in coordination with the role of the health officer and the administrator of the Board of Health. So hopefully we can bring that perspective to you, and you will be free to ask any legal questions. And that is the intent of having this conversation in an executive session.
Okay.
Perhaps I think that is going to provide a little bit light on and maybe answer some of the questions that you have related to this.
So on Tuesday, and you were just saying, on Tuesday then, rather than start with the COVID update and homelessness, can we start with the executive session then and get that out before we get into the?
Well, that's what I want to do is, first, you're going to have two executive sessions at the beginning and at the end. The first one is the COVID-19 update is going to be under an executive session where we're going to be talking about this. So on
right
Tuesday,
okay.
On Tuesday, you will convene the meeting as normally do, because the public is expecting that. But the first item of the agenda will be an executive session in which you call the RCW, and they will give enough time, and then for the public to come back and tune back into the YouTube. But I think I believe that probably a good 45-minute conversation on Tuesday under an executive session, I think is going to provide information to you.
I'm still learning. Good. Okay. Gary? Well, I guess we're winding down on this particular topic, but I do feel, especially being I'm in the minority, that I have to give some justification for my rationale. I'll just use two real quick examples. In 2016, I attended several public meetings involving septic systems in Thurston County. We were told at those public meetings by staff from Thurston County that we had a 14% septic system failure throughout the county. Throughout the county. After I was elected and took office, and we delved into this particular issue, it was found out that that information was erroneous. That in fact, it was less than 1% of those septic systems had failed throughout the county. So I just use that as an example. That's an older example, but it's what we deal with when we're trying to make public policy decisions. The more recent one was we find out that the state and federal government has a per billion tolerance in nitrates that's a 10 instead of a 2.5. We somehow came up with a different policy here at Thurston County that said, oh, 2.5 is the problem, not 5, not 10, that the state and feds recognize. So when I talk about inadequate information to make public policy decisions, it's all about the future and what we don't know. And if we are restricted by bureaucrats on the information that we can receive, I believe we end up with poor public policy that yet has to have been developed because we don't know what's coming down the pike. That's why I am so emphatic with the fact that we need as much information as we can, and we should never have information withheld by staff from us as policy setters. So I'll let it go at that.
Well, now just add that with your first example regarding septic, that was erroneous information. I don't know if you're alleging that we have fewer COVID-19 than been reported, or if we have more.
I don't know the answer to that. Don't know.
I trust our staff when they say they have 74. I don't think they're leading me down the primrose path. But we're not gonna know a lot more until Tuesday. That's what's, this is a waiting game. Do you have any final thoughts?
Well, just, Commissioner and I have gotten into this septic issue several times. I'm not gonna go back into it, but I can't speak to what he heard in 2016, but I have read a clarifying memo in 2017 that was very accurate about the nuances, but yet folks continue, not just Commissioner, but citizens continue to claim that there's inaccurate information when ongoing, when I know that's not true because I've got it in black and white from a 2017 clarifying memo. So whatever was maybe misconstrued in 2016 was fixed by 2017. And I'm not sure why there's a continual suggestion that there's ongoing lying to the public or withholding of information, because that's just not accurate.
One more time, then we gotta move on.
I just have to set the record straight from my perspective on
Well,
that.
you've made your position clear, you've made your position clear.
I believe that I read that same memo. That same memo did clarify that there was less than 1% failure countywide.
Based on repair, that it's way more nuanced than
I
just
know.
that, so I have to continue to.
But
And what,
the county was given misinformation by staff. Where that all plays out, I can get into as many as you want to talk about. On building code violations, I can point out many instances where people were told, oh, you can't do this, can't, for years. Somebody else makes a purchase of that property. Oh, all of a sudden you can. Now, how you can explain that without information that was erroneous at different times is beyond me. Now, it's either corruption or incompetence, but it exists.
so aside from code violations, nitrates, septics.
Building
We're talking about building,
violations.
we're talking about real lives here and.
Okay,
And virus and people and their rights. Anything else to add on this topic? Okay, that one's done. Any other topics the commissioners need to want to bring up? It's commissioners' items.
oh, yes.
Still have 12 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I got plenty.
Do you have any?
Okay, garbage along the roads. We closed our self-haul garbage process for a period of time because of this situation we're in. Because we closed that, now we've got mattresses and couches and garbage dumped along the roads. So I don't think we have that same thing in urban America that we have in rural America, because we basically closed the access for the rural American people that use self-haul. So in my estimation, littering ought to be a capital crime. I feel that strongly about it.
Littering should be punishable by death.
I really do. I think those people that do that kind of thing, I mean, I am absolutely opposed. I just want to show how strenuously I'm opposed to littering our environment and ruining our environment. But nonetheless, it happens. We've got some real bad people out there. They do a lot of other bad things. I think because we took an action I think we should have some kind of a reaction by Public Works folks possibly, that could go out and pick up some of this garbage before it gets out of control. Because once you have a little garbage dumped in this little drive, right, the ones I've seen are on county property. I think that should be cleaned up as soon as possible. I don't see that that's an issue that is gonna create a health hazard to the individual that might go out and pick it up. But it could create a long-term health hazard if people continue to keep dumping garbage inappropriately. So I know we've opened it up. We've made up for that misstep, if you will, that we had to overcome because we had people in threat categories and not enough people to do the job right. So it was a righteous closing that we needed to do. I recognize that.
So it wasn't a misstep.
Oh,
It was
yeah.
a righteous closing.
Well, it was a
It wasn't
righteous
misstep.
closing.
What is it?
But it was a misstep, because I think that we could have had other people designated to that particular activity and still covered the activity for the public. It's kind of like,
It didn't sound like we did have anybody that could cover it, did it?
oh yeah, we could have taken somebody out of category and put them, okay, you gotta go here and stand for this 8-hour period. We could have done that. It's no different than, on occasion, lawmen are doing other things besides what they were designated to. You'll often see a detective division assignment working patrol outside of the job specification because the need is there. So I'm just saying, did we do it all right? No, but I'm not being critical about it.
Can't you, Robert?
Well, I'm not being too critical
You
about
can't
it.
have it both ways.
Yes, I can have it both ways, because I think we shouldn't make that mistake in the future. I think we've done it, we made a mistake, okay, let's get beyond that. Now, let's go out and pick up the garbage that's dumped along the roads. I think that is that's something that Public Works could deal with. So that's one issue. So, any further discussion? I got other issues.
No, I know you do.
I wanna make
I'm not
that
sure you do.
clear.
I oppose the death penalty, so I can't agree with you on that.
Right, well, to state my emphatic position, I guess I use that term.
What do you call it? The term?
Capital punishment.
No, but I think you just had I thought you were,
Capital crime, I said.
no, I got that.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying, you said, anyway, move on.
Oh, okay.
I think he said his emphatic position.
Emphatic position, I call
About
it
it.
inflammatory rhetoric is what I call it.
No, that's okay. People know where I'm at.
Yep. Yeah, you had issues, you said.
The next thing is, I know we're gonna talk about docket issues coming up on the 15th, I think.
Yes, sir. And then you always start with an executive session because there's
Yeah.
some questions you
Yeah.
have. And that is scheduled for 2 hours, so hopefully the first 30 minutes, executive session, and
Okay.
then you will move on.
I received something from Mr. Pettit that I read this morning. I think it's there. I've talked to the county manager about it. He submitted it to council to review to see if we're doing the right things. I personally think that,
Which council? Which council?
Travis.
No,
Travis, I think, got it.
Okay, Travis,
Travis
good.
will be ready to address some of the legal aspects of a couple letters that you received.
And when it comes to budgetary issues that we're gonna be dealing with in the future and setting priorities, I think that we have pretty much set those priorities around the county by sending some people home and keeping some people at work in their different job descriptions. So I think it's gonna be pretty easy as we move into the budget process to see who we keep on the job for the benefit of the public at large versus what we have to do for public safety, if you will, or public security, or for the public benefit versus what's nice to do. And well, if everything was working okay, we could do this. I just want to plant that seed that I'm pretty well in tune. I've looked at some of our financial managers' recommendations, the list that how we're gonna do business.
be very clear, those were not recommendations, those are options.
Options, yes, they're options, but the recommendations have been implemented already by public policy in which we said this function has to continue. This function goes by the wayside for now. So just bear that in mind as we move into the budgetary position.
So I would suggest to you that some things can be delayed to reduced ill effect on the county for a short time, but if you delay them for a very long time, that becomes a huge problem. So the people who we have said stay at home in the short term may not be people we can do without in the long term. For example, assessor staff.
Yeah, or like, for example, I can imagine planners who are working on a comprehensive plan update. You know, you might be able to not have them working for 3 months, but at a certain point, the legal requirement requires you to have the people to do that work because the law requires us to comply with these different things.
The staff to maintain these buildings or the vehicles we drive.
And a lot of things are like, you know, I mean, because the telecommuting thing is an overlay on what you're saying. I mean, some people are essential, but the nature of their work allowed them to be able to telecommute, so they're not in the building. But the work that they're doing from the remote location is super essential.
Go ahead, I'll get to you.
That's
Hang
gonna
on.
be tricky.
Is that what you have your hand up? Is that what you wanted to say?
Well, I was just kind of backing up Robin's point, because there's a lot of different things like that. Yeah, I mean, it's just a good point. I'm just supporting your point. There's different timelines for different types of essential work. And we're just dealing with trying to get through the next couple of months.
Right, and I appreciate that, but the impacts on the budget, we're still trying to put our hands around, and how deep is this hole? And the hole is gonna be very deep. And just to give you a perspective, I provided numbers yesterday on the first, paycheck for those individuals who are on administrative leave, and I agree with Robin. I mean, you can probably live without those activities for 2 weeks, but when it becomes 4 weeks or more, there's an issue, is because how you determine what businesses you can, of the county, you can continue to provide. But if you just look by the numbers that we have seen, administrative leave on the first pay period, 144,000. Let's assume you take that to the whole year. Just talking purposes, there's gonna be, let's say, $2 million a year. Based on at least my point of view, and based on the aspects of how big this hole is, that's not gonna be even close to what you need to deal with.
And the bulk of that is in restricted
Right.
funds, not the general fund, and that's
So,
where we're
and,
gonna see.
and the conversations related to the budget, they're coming up, and thank you, because even whatever that is now, then the size of the hole that perhaps you may have to deal with this year is yet to be seen. And with all due respect, I don't think it's gonna be an easy conversation.
Can you explain that
Reason that.
144,000, like what goes into that number
See,
versus the status quo of paying everybody their
because
salaries?
what I provided yesterday, it was on the first pay period, we put employees on administrative leave. And we wanted to keep track as to what that impact of administrative leave was. And I gave you yesterday a number as to what the total payroll number is, about 5.2, right? That's on a pay period. Pay period is a little bit over 2 weeks. Yes, half a month. So on the first one, that we were tracking this administrative, although that is not complete because, there's some little additional days. We had this $144,000. Those individuals that were put on administrative leave, they were not able to come to work, or they're unable to telecommute. But out of the 144,000, Robin is clear, only, let's say, half that is general fund employees. The rest is perhaps other, road fund or solid, whatever, other funds. So, am I answering your question?
Well, I just want to make sure I understand what's driving that number. So if somebody can't telework, they're on administrative leave, but if they were working, we'd be paying them.
Right.
And budgeted. So what's this extra budget burden?
So the
Coming from?
administrative leave is not an extra budget burden yet.
Not yet.
Where it is going to become a burden, it's not necessarily the administrative leave that's the burden. It's going to be that we're not going to be collecting enough revenue to support the appropriation levels that you've made. So you're going to have to reduce your appropriation. This is just one thing we're tracking. We have this many people on administrative leave and this is what it's costing us. That's what we're doing to estimate the impact of COVID-19 on our county, with the hope that we'll be able to collect that, because we can't charge it to grants. We can't charge it to our regular funding sources. It's going to be an impact in many ways.
So you're just
On the general
showing
fund.
us the quantity, the magnitude of the appropriated expenditure that we may have a short budget
Right.
revenue shortfall
People would have
to
been doing
cover.
work and instead we're going to have to pay them
Because
leave.
I think when we get to the point, maybe in like 2-3 months, depending on how much revenue will come in, cash flow is gonna be a big issue.
It's gonna be a big problem.
And that is even if we put, is employees be put in paid administrative leave, it's an expenditures that, whether they're here or not, it's expenditures. But the question is, are we gonna be able to cover those checks based on the cash that we have available to
And
us?
that's just the revenue shortfall.
Right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I understood
Well, I'm
that.
Right.
And I'm glad you brought that
And
up. I was thinking the same thing. We're paying them whether they're here at home. Where's the rub?
Yeah.
Right.
I just want to make sure I got that because
Productivity.
Part of the rub is in productivity. This work is not getting done. It's work that needs to be done. We're talking about how we're going to have to catch it up later. That may result in overtime costs later.
Yeah.
So it's helping us to estimate the magnitude of
What we're
that
losing.
impact as well.
yeah, I got you.
And that goes right back to what you were saying earlier with that list, and what you brought up, the list of least severe to the most severe way to deal with the budget down the road.
Yeah, it was not in that order either, anyone who's looked at the list.
Yeah, that's-
But they are the very difficult options.
I know that we're out of time, Commissioner, but related to this item, next week, I will be organizing a Zoom meeting with all the elected officials.
Okay,
So it will be two-part, as you requested. One is gonna be just a brief update as to each office, as to how they're dealing with all COVID-19 emergency. And the second part is gonna be start engaging that conversation on some of the perhaps difficult decisions that might be coming down the road.
okay. Final thought, we gotta go.
That's the
Well,
next one.
I guess I differ with our financial person as far as how we're gonna be doing business in the future. Because I think the future is new. We don't know it yet, but when this is looked back on, we're gonna see that this was a turning point in our society for whatever changes are gonna come. So we're gonna have pre-virus and post-virus, you might say. I don't know, we're in that gray area right now, we don't know where we're at exactly. But all the bureaucratic regulation that was put in place in the past that we're expected to deal with was pre-virus. Everything that we're gonna be dealing with in the future is post-virus. And so the regulatory restrictions that are in place that say you can, you can't, you must, those are all gonna get adjusted as we move forward into new thinking when it comes to financial abilities of government to provide necessary services, not nice services, not what we would like to have. We're only going to be able to provide necessary services for a while. I don't know how long that's gonna be, but we're gonna have limited resources to provide those services because we don't have the luxury of printing money like the federal government has. The state doesn't have the luxury of printing money like the federal government has. So we're gonna see some drastic changes coming out of the state. If I had to estimate, I mean, there's some real wild proposals on the number of state layoffs that there's gonna be, that is gonna be a direct effect on Thurston County because so many of our residents work for the state. So we do have some problems coming. Because of those problems, we're going to have to think out of the box to be able to provide those necessary services that we must provide. And we're gonna have to leave some of those services on the side that are nice to provide. So I plant that seed.
Just before you jump in, I would just say that I did not make any suggestion about how we will be doing business in the future. I just commented on the
Right.
difficult decisions that the
That are
board
yet
will
to
have
come.
to make.
Almost the final word, go ahead.
The seed I want to plant, is that what I've learned is that climate change is driving a lot of public health things as we look to the future. The warming of the planet is creating movement of animals and into places that they weren't before, which is exacerbating the spread of viruses and transmissions and things. So maybe the climate change, which is not being taken as seriously as it should by a lot of policymakers, will need to move up our priority list. And that may or may not involve sweeping away of bureaucratic regulation, or, there's a whole bunch of different ways to attack that beast, but it's gonna have to be something we deal with very, very seriously if we wanna work on public health.
And I've said a few times that we have ratcheted, this has forced us to really ratchet down. And we'd have to prepare, I've said it a couple of times, we have to prepare for a re-engagement with budget, with the community, with policy, and what services we provide. And it may not be up to this level again. It may very well be down here. We just don't know. So tough talk coming up, talks.
But I will say, boy, I've enjoyed this conversation if for no other reason. I had both my seatmates refer to the process as bureaucratic. You made my day, thank you.
Yes, from one bureaucrat to another. You're welcome.
Yeah.
All right, we're concluding this meeting now. Thank you very much, Brian. Go ahead and kill it. Thanks for watching.